The 15th of July 2020. A normal summer afternoon in America. No sirens. No burning data centers. No signs that anything was wrong. Just Twitter, the public loudspeaker of the modern world. The place where presidents speak, billionaires move markets, and hundreds of millions of people check every day to see what the world is thinking. Then suddenly, the loudspeaker started speaking with a voice that didn't belong to its owner. Elon Musk posted a strange message. Send Bitcoin. Get twice as much back. At first, many people assumed it was a joke. Another internet stunt. Another billionaire prank. But a few minutes later, Bill Gates posted almost the exact same message. Then Apple. Then Uber. Then Jeff Bezos. Then Joe Biden. And finally, Barack Obama. Some of the most powerful names on earth were suddenly broadcasting the same promise. Money began flowing into a Bitcoin wallet. Screenshots exploded across the internet. Newsrooms switched into breaking news mode. Investors stared at their screens. Millions of people wondered whether what they were seeing was real. But this was no longer a hacked account. This was a hijacking of the world's microphone. Someone had walked into the control room of the internet and taken the microphone away from some of the most influential people on the planet. Twitter scrambled to respond. Posts were deleted. Accounts were locked. Verified users suddenly found themselves unable to tweet. The blue checkmark, the symbol of authenticity, had become a warning sign. For several hours, nobody could be completely certain that the person speaking behind an account was actually the person who owned it. But the stolen Bitcoin wasn't the most frightening part. The most frightening part was what could have been posted instead. A fake declaration of war, a fabricated bankruptcy announcement, a political statement capable of shaking financial markets, or pushing an entire nation into chaos. Who could simultaneously seize control of some of the most powerful accounts in the world? Many people assumed Twitter had become the target of a nation-state espionage operation. The kind of attack usually associated with intelligence agencies and geopolitical rivals. But the truth was even more unsettling. Because this attack didn't begin with malware. It didn't begin with a sophisticated exploit. It didn't begin with a secret cyber weapon. It began with a phone call. To find the people behind that chaotic afternoon, you have to leave the glass towers of Silicon Valley behind and travel east to Hillsborough County, Florida. That's where you'll find Graham Ivan Clark, 17 years old, not a foreign intelligence officer, not a government-trained cyber warfare expert, just a teenager who grew up on the internet, a world where a username can hide a real identity. Bitcoin can cross borders without a passport, and a few characters after the @ symbol can be worth thousands of dollars. Clark wasn't operating entirely alone. Around him was a loose network connected through Discord and OG users. The investigation would eventually identify Mason Shepard, a 19-year-old from the United Kingdom known online as Chewan, and Nima Fazili, a 22-year-old from Florida who went by the alias Rolex. No office, no chain of command, no boss sitting at the head of the table. Just dark chat rooms, faceless usernames, and deals negotiated one keystroke at a time. On one side stood Twitter, the public square of the internet, where presidents, billionaires, and global corporations spoke to the world. On the other were small bedrooms, a few laptops, and the cold blue glow of computer screens reflecting off the faces of young men too young to legally walk into many bars in America. On one side, the world's microphone. On the other, teenagers slowly reaching for the switch. But in the beginning, they weren't after Barack Obama or Elon Musk. They were after something much smaller, much simpler. The perfect username. The first access didn't take them straight to the vault, but it got them inside the building. The group began exploring Twitter's internal network, reading documentation, learning how the company operated, and identifying employees with higher levels of access. That first account didn't give them ultimate power. It gave them something even more dangerous: a map. The intrusion unfolded like a burglar moving through a dark building. Open one door, stop and listen, read the signs, find the stairwell, then climb to the next floor. Another phone call was made. Another story was told. Another employee was convinced. Step by step, the group climbed higher through Twitter's internal systems. Eventually, they reached Twitter's internal account support tools, the systems that allowed authorized employees to change account email addresses, assist with password resets, and manage account authentication. In the right hands, it was a customer support tool. In the wrong hands, it was the cockpit. From that moment on, they didn't need to guess Elon Musk's password. They didn't need to compromise Bill Gates' phone. They didn't need to hack Barack Obama's device. They simply used the authority Twitter had built into its own systems to manage its users. Like a burglar walking into a hotel and realizing he doesn't need to pick every lock, because he has just found the master key cabinet. They didn't find a key. They found the room where every key was kept. And suddenly, almost no account was out of reach. But the first doors they opened didn't belong to presidents or billionaires. They belonged to rare usernames. The internet called them OG handles. A single letter, a single number, a short word. To most people, they were nothing more than a few characters after the @ symbol. But in the underground economy, they were like rare license plates, limited edition sneakers, or a penthouse overlooking Central Park. Not necessarily more useful, just impossible to replace. On Discord and OG users, these usernames were bought, sold, negotiated, and traded every day. The group began taking over smaller accounts, changing the recovery email, resetting the password, and quietly finding buyers. Bitcoin changed hands. Ownership changed hands. Digital nameplates were lifted off one door and bolted onto another. The first deals went through. No alarms. No one rushed in to stop them. And that is the most dangerous moment in any heist. Not when the thief is afraid, but when he begins to believe he can't be caught. Success didn't make them more careful. It made them hungrier. Because once you have the master keys to an entire city, selling a few nameplates no longer feels like enough. Then the group's attention shifted to the world of cryptocurrency. It was almost the perfect hunting ground. People who followed crypto accounts were already conditioned to Bitcoin, giveaways, and the feeling that if you waited even a few minutes, the opportunity would disappear. In a market fueled by greed and the fear of missing out, urgency often outruns reason. The account at Angelo BTC became one of their first test runs. Then came Binance and other cryptocurrency accounts. The message was almost laughably simple. Send Bitcoin to this address. We'll send back twice as much. It wasn't sophisticated. It wasn't original. If anything, it was painfully obvious. But the scam wasn't selling an idea. It was borrowing credibility. When an anonymous account promises to double your money, it's spam. When a cryptocurrency exchange says it, people begin to hesitate. When Elon Musk says it, an impossible promise suddenly starts to feel possible. Bitcoin began flowing into the wallet. The plan was working. But the cryptocurrency accounts were only the dress rehearsal. The real stage was still waiting. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Joe Biden, Barack Obama. Names capable of turning a single sentence into global headlines. And the small scam they had started was about to become a worldwide crisis. The tweets began to appear. One account, then a second, then a third. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Apple, Uber, Joe Biden, Barack Obama. People and organizations with nothing in common were suddenly broadcasting the same message, the same promise, the same Bitcoin address. It was as if someone had hijacked every television network during prime time and forced them all to air the exact same broadcast. The internet froze. Then, it erupted. Screenshots spread faster than Twitter could delete them. Reporters scrambled to call the companies involved. Investors stared at their screens. Cybersecurity experts were pulled onto live television while they still had no idea who was inside Twitter's systems. This was no longer an account takeover. It was a crisis of truth. Twitter was built to answer one simple question: who is speaking? But for several hours, the platform could no longer guarantee the answer. Twitter deleted the posts, locked accounts, and eventually prevented many verified users from tweeting at all. The blue check mark, the badge that had always told the world this person is who they claim to be, suddenly became crime scene tape. To stop the imposters from speaking, Twitter had to temporarily silence the very people its users trusted most. The attackers used that power to steal Bitcoin. But money was never the most frightening scenario. Replace the Bitcoin message with something else. A politician announces that the United States has entered a war. A CEO declares that a Fortune 500 company is filing for bankruptcy. A government agency issues a warning about an attack that never happened. A presidential candidate announces they're dropping out of the race. Every one of those statements could be false. But the reaction they trigger would be completely real. Trading algorithms respond in milliseconds. News spreads in seconds. Fear travels at the speed of a sports car. The truth walks behind it. By the time those accounts are recovered, billions of dollars could have changed hands. Markets could have crashed. And a lie could already be halfway around the world. The Bitcoin they stole was pocket change compared to the power they held. For a few hours, they didn't just control the accounts, they controlled the voices. And in the information age, controlling the voice can be far more dangerous than controlling the money. Once Twitter regained control, the game changed. The hunters became the hunted. The FBI stepped in. The U.S. Secret Service joined the investigation. IRS criminal investigation began following the flow of Bitcoin. Investigators started collecting the pieces: Discord logs, OG users' data, IP addresses, email accounts, Bitcoin wallets, exchange account records. On their own, each was nothing more than a dot. But connected together, they began to form a face. The blockchain may hide a username, but it also keeps a ledger that never forgets. One transaction led to a wallet. The wallet led to an exchange account. The exchange account led to an email address. The email led to an IP address. The IP address led to a real person. But technology wasn't the only thing that exposed them. It was ego. The need to show off. The desire to be recognized. And the belief that no one inside the chat room would ever betray them. In the underground market, if you want to sell a key, you have to prove it unlocks the door. But every time you prove it, you leave another fingerprint on the lock. Just over 2 weeks after the hack, the first criminal charges were announced. The usernames began turning into real names. The icons on a screen became real faces. They believed the internet was an ocean deep enough to swallow every footprint. But the internet isn't water. It's wet concrete. You can walk across it in seconds, but your footprints stay behind. The internet never forgets. It simply waits for someone patient enough to connect the footprints into a trail. Just over 2 weeks after the attack, the first names became public. Mason Shepard, Nima Fazeli, and Graham Ivan Clark, a 17-year-old from Florida whom prosecutors described as the central figure behind the hack. The contrast was almost impossible to believe. On one side stood Twitter, a company worth tens of billions of dollars, where some of the most powerful people on Earth spoke to hundreds of millions. On the other stood a teenager too young to legally buy a drink in the United States. On one side were glass office towers, teams of engineers, and layers of sophisticated security systems. On the other was a bedroom, Discord, usernames, and the cold blue glow of a computer screen. Yet for a few hours on the 15th of July, 2020, the distance between those two worlds almost disappeared. Graham Ivan Clark later pleaded guilty and was sentenced under Florida's youthful offender statute to 3 years in prison, followed by 3 years of probation. The others faced charges related to fraud, money laundering, and unauthorized access to computer systems. Joseph James O'Connor, another key figure in the case, was arrested in Spain, extradited to the United States, and later sentenced in federal court. The attack lasted only a few hours, but its shadow stretched on for years. And in the end, this story was never really about the Bitcoin that was stolen. It was about trust. The first lesson is simple. Authentication is only as strong as the person protecting it. An "Approve" button may look like a wall of defense, but if an employee is persuaded to open the gate, that wall becomes little more than scenery. That's why privileged accounts should use phishing-resistant authentication, such as hardware security keys and trusted verified devices. The second lesson is about limiting trust. Don't hand out too many master keys to too many people. The ability to change an account's email address, reset passwords, or disable authentication should be tightly restricted, continuously monitored, and for high-risk actions. Require approval from 2 authorized employees. The third lesson begins with a phone call. Employees need a trusted, independent way to verify who's calling. Never share passwords. Never read authentication codes over the phone. Never approve a login request simply because the caller sounds confident, professional, or urgent. And finally, every major platform must be prepared for the moment an incident grows beyond its control. During the attack, Twitter temporarily prevented many verified accounts from posting in order to stop the breach from spreading. Like a ship taking on water, sometimes the only way to save the vessel is to seal off one compartment before the entire ship goes under. After the attack, Twitter tightened internal access controls, expanded employee training on social engineering, and strengthened its authentication safeguards. But no system can ever fully patch human nature. People still get tired. They still feel rushed. They still want to help. And they can still trust a voice that sounds familiar enough. That's why the Twitter hack of 2020 remains so unsettling. Not because of the Bitcoin that was stolen, but because, for a few hours, a group of young attackers seized control of the internet's biggest microphones. They had the power to make a lie speak with the voice of truth. The summer of 2020 proved one thing. The internet isn't always broken by force. Sometimes, it's bent by trust. And the most dangerous person isn't always the one who knows how to break down the door. Sometimes, it's the one who knows exactly what to say to make you open it yourself.